What if Yoriichi was put into the world of Jujutsu Kaisen? Today I want to accurately gauge the strength of Yoriichi and put him against the strongest characters JJK has to offer. With this, I can hopefully prove to you that Demon Slayer isn't as weak as you may think. If you enjoy Demon Slayer content just like this, or just my videos in general, then do me a favor by liking and subscribing. Now that I have your attention, let's get into the scaling. I don't see Yoriichi's scale being too long, as he just peaks every feat and character in the series, so any feat done by any upper moons are outscaled by Muzan and then cliffed by Yoriichi. For example, the hand demon whose attacks were around building level, or even Doma's feat calc, in which it's calced around the multi-city block range. And this is given the fact that Doma was massively weakened to the point of being 700 times weaker than usual. I'll go more over this in my Disaster Curses vs Upper Moons video, so feel free to check that out, and the exact math and reasoning behind it. There's also a feat done by Muzan himself, not only creating a crater but also shaking the ground. This feat ranges from building to city block level, but it can actually be calced higher. Giving Muzan's distance from the demon corpse member who actually felt the ground shake, this feat gets way higher. While the initial impact could be city block level, there are more factors that imply this feat to be near branching those low town ranges. Muzan's earthquake was visibly felt and caused a lot of damage to the ground, to the point that it would violently fragment the ground and cause slight damage to buildings. And in fact, this would fit a magnitude of a 5.5 appropriately according to this graph. And yes, this Muzan was aged by 9,000 years. Other than that, Gyutaro Upper Moon 6 Self-Destruct is also calced in the town ranges. This is his last resort attack and wouldn't scale directly to his AP, but it would scale to Muzan's AP and durability. Using this and the fact that Doma's feat is severely weakened and Muzan has a town level feat while scaling above this with both AP and durability, we can grant Yoriichi with town levels of AP. Now Yoriichi's durability would not scale to this, given he is a human within the verse of Demon Slayer, and demons are both more durable and higher endurance than slayers. Yoriichi himself admits this by saying if he gets hit once by Muzan, he's cooked. And this is evident throughout the entire series. So as for speed, he's obviously the fastest in the verse. I can scale Yoriichi two ways. One from a direct feat and the other in which involves upscaling. Both do come around to the same conclusion and can be used to support the other. Firstly, looking at Mitsuri, who was able to avoid lightning from Zohakuten. This would be real lightning since it's from the sky and a form of blood demon art. There's also Mui, who is able to be calced into the massively hypersonic from avoiding Gyoko's attacks. We know Mui to describe Upper Moon 1 Kokoshibu's speed to be in another dimension, and Koko would outscale Kaigaku's Black Lightning. Dwarfing this would be Muzan, making him bare minimum sub-rel. To briefly explain, Kaigaku is a Breath of Thunder user. Once he becomes a demon, he explains his techniques have gotten stronger, augmenting his speed as well. When Kokoshibu is giving him blood, he states his cells themselves was scared just by being in the presence of Upper Moon 1. Kaigaku would then get Perception Blitz by Zenitsu, another lightning user. And an old Yoriichi, while legit dying, would speed blitz Kokoshibu, and Prime Yoriichi is able to outspeed and blitz Muzan. As for the calc, it would involve Yoriichi cutting all of Muzan's parts. Using this panel, we can deduce how many swings Yoriichi made by using the bits and the swings we see on screen to find out the average amount of swings he did in total. I count 6 pieces of Muzan and 2 swings. So for each 2 swings, he had to cut around 6 pieces. And he did this until he hit 1,501 pieces. Yoriichi swings his arm and sword at a 180-degree turn for each swing as he tries to cut the pieces. Using all of this to estimate this feat in particular to be in the light speed range. Both of these paths grant Yoriichi with light speed or near light speed combat and reactions, and I'll briefly show on screen now the feat and calculations I'm talking about.
Starting with the low tiers of JJK, this includes characters such as Miwa, Inumaki, Nobara, Mai, Megami, Panda, and Mekamaru. The general scaling for low tiers are around the building level to city block levels of AP, with the exception of Mekamaru, who has a higher calced attack and has a stronger form later on. So pretty much everyone here except Mekamaru is around building level, which means Yoriichi has no problem in just stomping any of them. Mai only really has a gun which isn't doing anything. Panda is just really big for no reason, which makes him an easy target. A fight between Yoriichi and Miwa would be cool given they both use swords, weaknesses, but Yoriichi is still far stronger and far more skillful. Inumaki has a decent win con with cursed speech. There is a legitimate chance it could work on Yoriichi, but he isn't doing anything beyond that, because obviously the strength gap is just far too wide. Megumi also has a good win con by summoning Mahoraga, but Megumi pretty much has to kill himself to actually pull it off, so he loses by default. And either way, I'll talk about Mahoraga later on, so it doesn't matter right now. Nobara's win cons will be her voodoo dolls, but this would assume she's able to come into contact with Yoriichi and be able to run away without being killed, which needless to say is not happening. Mechamaru might be a little more tricky if he uses his giant mech, mainly because Yoriichi's probably not going to be able to track his movements inside the suit, but Yoriichi is still definitely strong enough to just slice up the mech anyway. The mid tiers of JJK have a lot of characters, and some do have some interesting cases to be made. The AP range is in the multi-city block tier, as even a weaker Yuji is able to survive a punch from Sukuna calced as city block. If we consider that black flashes can increase the user's attack power, then Yuji will scale far above that. He also has his domain, which will be perfect against someone who is stronger than him. Now his domain isn't anything complex, he's just manifesting his mind into the physical world. The only real benefit will be that his abilities are enhanced. With that said, I don't think it will be enough to defeat Yoriichi. Yuji does have things like cleave, dismantle, or black flash, but this is assuming any of these attacks are going to even land. Remember, Yoriichi has access to the see-through world, meaning he can easily track his blood flow and predict where his attacks are coming from. And this is also assuming Yuji can even cast his domain in the first place. Yoriichi could easily just blitz him and cut his neck. Yuji can vaguely be argued for scaling to around massively hypersonic. We have seen people like Akari and Maki react to lightning to some degree, who already scale to Yuji, but it is very ambiguous if they can consistently move at lightning speed all the time. Even if we were to say that's the case for Yuji, it is still far slower than Yoriichi, so I don't see a way Yuji is winning. Toji and Maki will be another interesting case. They do have lightning speed arguments, but again don't seem to operate at that level consistently. Either way, Toji and Maki's best win con is the Soul Split Katana, which is a one-shot potential attack. If this lands, it will bypass Yoriichi's soul and just kill him. They also have minor precog as well to assist, but Yoriichi's see-through world is just far superior at projecting attacks in general. Not to mention Yoriichi is still faster, so their precog isn't going to be any use, meaning they most likely won't be able to land any attacks with the katana. If they somehow got lucky and managed to land an attack, then they obviously win, but I don't see this happening given the speed gap and Yoriichi's precog. Nanami, Mei, and Choso are just cooked. Nanami really only has experience in Black Flash. His overtime ability is useful, but he has no real means to really hurt or tag Itachi in any way. Mei's Black Birds aren't do anything either, which just leaves her combative ability left, which she stands no chance. Choso's fastest ability is the speed of sound, which gets passed by base Tanjo in his fight against Lower Moon 6, so it's useless. He does get amped and can use things like RCT and Blood Armor to become like really tanky, but Yoriichi's AP is still too much to counter without hacks. Todo's Boogie Woogie could be extremely annoying for Yoriichi because Todo's going to be teleporting everywhere, but eventually Yoriichi's going to adapt to his hand movements and predict when he's going to teleport and just kill Todo there. Hakari on the other hand has a decent argument. He was shown to dodge an attack from Kashima at massively hypersonic, so we know he isn't going to be as slow as some of the other people Yoriichi has fought. The main thing here will be his domain expansion. When Hakari activates his domain, it functions as a slot machine spinning for a jackpot. If he hits the jackpot, he gets near instant healing for 4 minutes and 11 seconds, becoming immortal even if his head is destroyed. Now of course this is assuming Hakari even gets this off, which he wouldn't, but if he did, how would Yoriichi combat this? Given Hakari is immortal, there's really no attack that would kill him. What's going to happen is that Hakari and Yoriichi go back and forth for the entire 4 minutes and 11 seconds, as Yoriichi can't hurt Hakari, and Hakari isn't fast enough or strong enough to damage Yoriichi. Best case scenario, this would end in a stalemate if Hakari continuously uses his domain. His RCT could help him stall for a while, but in most scenarios I see Yoriichi winning over time. Next up will be Arame, who will just be a slightly better version of Doma, so ice isn't really enough to cause any issues for Yoriichi, so he wins this as well. As for Higuruma, his domain is a good win con. Once the domain is casted, a courtroom is formed where Higuruma becomes the judge and the target becomes the defendant. If the target is found guilty of past actions, Higuruma's judgment activates, and one of two things happen. Either the target's curse technique is nullified, or in rare cases, it can even summon the executioner's sword, which kills anyone with one hit. It's also important to mention that once the domain is activated, you cannot fight your way out of the trial, meaning if Yoriichi is caught, then he has to go through the entire thing. I don't know if Yoriichi will be found guilty of anything, considering his backstory, but let's just say he finds a way to make himself guilty of something. Demon Slayer's power system works pretty differently from JJK. There is no straight energy system like most anime, for example curse energy or chakra, so Yoriichi probably won't get nullified by anything, but instead Higuruma summons the Executioner's Blade, which could be useful if Higuruma was actually a decent fighter. Higuruma himself admits that he isn't really skilled at hand-to-hand combat, meaning Higuruma's fighting style along with Yoriichi's see-through world makes his attacks extremely predictable, so Yoriichi won't have much of a problem here either. Moving on to the disaster curses. The only ones that actually present an issue would be Jogo and Mahito. Jogo will be the most problematic, firstly because Jogo's flames cause massive AoE, which makes it hard for Yoriichi to get within close close range. And secondly, Jogo actually has the AP to damage Yoriichi. I can't really say for sure if Yoriichi's see-through world could work on Jogo, considering cursors have different bodies than humans, which makes this a lot harder in Yoriichi's case. He is leagues faster than Jogo, so he probably won't get hit by many attacks. The fight could play out like how Sukuna fought Jogo, where Sukuna is just constantly flying around and blitzing him. But Yoriichi will have to be careful from the flames because that will definitely cause a lot more damage. This is definitely the closest fight yet, and it could honestly go either way if Jogo can actually land an attack. But Yoriichi is still blitz level differences in terms of speed, so I see Yoriichi winning this. As for Mahito, he can only be damaged if you attack his soul. Not to mention he can alter another person's soul as well. So if he touched Yoriichi, he is for sure dead. If we assume Yoriichi can track a curse's body like a normal human, then Mahito will never get a chance to touch him. But also assuming he can't detect Mahito's movements, this makes this a lot more tricky, considering Mahito can do things like making clones or manipulating parts of his body in an unpredictable manner. We have seen Yuji be able to react to a lot of Mahito's attacks, who was barely faster than sound at the time, so Yoriichi won't have a problem reacting or dodging. The main problem is that Yoriichi can't actually kill Mahito, as he has no way to damage his soul. So this pretty much ends in a stalemate. There is Mahito's domain that could be a win con if Yoriichi is unaware on how domains work, but again, he is definitely fast enough to avoid it. Overall, there is more win cons on Mahito's side because of his technique, but Yoriichi still has the stats to maintain himself, so I can't really give a clear answer on who wins, so I'll let you guys decide in the comments. Lastly, for high tiers. The high tiers have a very vast range of scaling, with the highest being around mountain level or even country level, to the lowest end being around town level. An example being Kashimo. While I do have him in this tier, he doesn't have a genuine win con against Yoriichi. His main gimmick is lightning and speed, which is still incredibly slow compared to Yoriichi's speed. Even if you think Kashimo's EM waves are near light speed, it still doesn't matter. Yoriichi can still track the blood flow and muscle movements of his body, so they could maybe go back and forth, but Kashimo's going to run out of stamina and destroy his own body long before Yoriichi. But I can't say the same for Mahoraga. For this one, I don't see a world where Yoriichi is winning. Once Mahoraga just adapts to Yoriichi's sun breathing, there is practically nothing he can do. All he really can do is just dodge his attacks and stay alive. Mahoraga can adapt to any phenomenon, which also includes speed. So eventually Mahoraga will just adapt to Yoriichi's only win con that I've been using this whole video and just blow him to bits. Yoriichi has no way to one-shot him, and even if I give him the benefit of the doubt of using the see-through world, Mahoraga can and will adapt to that as well. So this is where I think Yoriichi stops altogether. I could continue discussing more characters like Yorozu or Yuki, which I could argue Yoriichi could win, but I'll just be repeating the same arguments of Yoriichi being faster with precog. I'm sure most of you guys get the point already. Yoriichi is faster than most characters in JJK except for maybe Gojo and Sukuna, and that gives him a major advantage against characters that are much weaker than him. But as for the top tiers of JJK like Yuta, Kenjaku, Gojo, Sukuna, they may be slower, but they are far stronger and have the win cons to easily beat Yoriichi. The only characters I can see him beating in this tier are Kashimo, Yorozu, and Yuki in the best case scenario. But let me know what you guys think. If you like videos like this, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. There are a lot more videos coming on the way. Until next time, peace.